Normally there isn't just like a peninsula of scalp.
Do
No,
you have
see, that
South America on your head? Is that like the shape of South
pretty much.
America? It's
Now,
like-
see, Jake, I don't keep that on purpose. That's just all that grows left that's up there.
Gotcha.
that's a topographical
That-
map of
Yeah, that's called an Italian receding hairline.
so it basically forms in the shape of Italy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And eventually I'll get a liver spot right about here. It'll be Sicily.
Oh, good. Welcome everyone to BeerThralls presented Beer Protocol.
I hate you ass.
You can edit that part out, I feel like.
Oh, I
No, you
could.
won't.
I
If you were a good
could. I'm James. I'm drinking rum and coke.
I'll go. I'm
Jake.
Jake. I have a beer. I forgot which one.
Okay. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm drinking Maple Mead, which is Matt's apple mead.
Nice.
Ooh, bottle, I see. Cheers, gentlemen.
Like, so much usually putting it in a wine bottle.
We're gonna talk about discount Ironman.
Or the Crimson Dynamo, also known as
on that. I'll come
Dmitry
back to it.
Bukharin.
What?
What? His name's Dmitry Bukharin.
That's Buck Wild.
Good. Good enough.
He also has 6 life, short movement, 3 height, 4 threat, 4 physical, 3 energy, and 4 mystic defenses. His builder is Energy Electric Blast. It is a beam 4, 5 dice with Shotgun Wild, and this character gains 1 power after the attack is resolved. His spender is Homing Rockets, which is range 5, 5 dice, 2 power. This ignores line of sight, and the defending character does not benefit from cover. Wild, it has explosive. Before damage is dealt, other enemy characters within range 2 of the target character suffer 1 damage. His affiliation, the Unbreakable Red Line for Winter Guard. At the start of an allied's activation, it may remove 1 special condition. When an allied character is contesting a secure objective and would be pushed, it may roll a die on a crit, wild, or shield result. It is not pushed. Overcharge capacitors, 0 energy. Action. This character gains 2 energy. He also has propulsion thrusters, 2 energy. Place this character within range 2 of its current position. This superpower can only be used once per turn. Disruption field, 2 energy. When this character or another allied character is targeted by an enemy attack and the enemy is within range 3 of this character, it may use this superpower. This character may re-roll up to 2 of its attacker's dice. Infinity power! Carborundum matrix alloy.
Yeah, okay.
When this character would suffer damage from the enemy attack, reduce the amount suffered by 1 to a minimum of 1. Infinity power! Flight.
I can't get over you just shouting infinity power. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
Is he any different on his injured side?
Nah.
He is not.
Okay, so I take umbrage to what you said earlier about discount Iron Man.
He's just
For
Iron
2
Man.
reasons.
Oh,
No, for 2 reasons.
He's better than Iron Man?
1, he's more expensive than original core set Iron Man by 1 threat. And
That's fair.
2, I genuinely feel like this model, if it had come in the core set as Iron Man, with shaved like 1 or 2 of these abilities off, we would have been much happier. And our first video of our podcast would not have been Iron Man sucks.
You know what? I actually kind of agree with you, and I hate saying that.
I know you do, James. That's why I strive to get 1 out of you every episode.
Yeah, but we call it discount Iron Man because this is just Russian Avengers, so
it is Russian Avengers.
Yeah, Crimson Dynamo. He's a 4 threat model. Boy, howdy, does he have the text to be a 4 threat model? There's a lot of text on this card.
And he's amazing.
He's pretty good. Like, of the entire Winter Guard, I genuinely feel Crimson Dynamo is the one where you're just like, dude kind of slaps.
Yeah, he slaps good. He slaps hard.
As an affiliation leader, I think you have to build with him in your list. I think that's perfectly fine. Based on the range on his abilities, his damage reduction, as well as some of the other gimmicks he wants, it's kind of hard to figure out where he wants to stand.
Roughly around range 4 to 5, so he can just throw beams.
Correct.
Is he a larger base?
Yes, he is.
Okay. He's moved shorts, that's why. Sorry, go ahead.
Disruption field requires him to be within 3 of whoever's attacking.
Yeah, most people are going to have to be within range 3 of him to attack him.
Right. Or his allies. So he kind of want to cozy up around midfield. So that range 3 bubble around him covers a lot of the table, and he has options for spending 2 for disruption field, I feel like. However, as you pointed out, he has enough range on his attacks that he doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
With this much range, you could have him potentially hold down a flank and then target things towards the middle or continue fighting that flank. He has damage reduction, which makes him particularly good. If he's not dealing with a bunch of focused fire or lots of attacks at a time, it can take a little while to wear his 6 stamina down. Short move does mean he's going to be using propulsion thrusters, probably first or second turn, to sort of get across the table and get to where he needs to set up. Overcharge capacitors is a really interesting ability on him because I feel like if you have at least 2 targets available for Electric Blast, you would always default to that. But this does let you guarantee by spending one of your actions either a homing rockets or a disruption field or a free place. So you can get that place off on round 1 in order to get into position and still have a power left over for objective interaction.
Yep.
I always love when they give flight to a short move character. Like, that actually matters.
It kind of doesn't, because the rule is you can climb. Climbing just makes you short move to begin with. If anything, that might, if you can give him more movement through tactics cards, like if you took him into shield as a splash and gave him shield ability, which also gives him flight. There are certain tactic cards that work against flight, though. Like I'm pretty sure the Air Force with War Machine and Captain Marvel would actually be more effective against him because he can hover,
fly.
Now I haven't looked at the rest of the group, and I don't know what the interactions are.
They're not as awesome, but
Ursa Major's good at some stuff.
Oh no, they're all very good at their one niche thing, and that's it. They can't do anything outside of that niche.
It's a fraction of 3 threat models, essentially.
I mean, he's never so overcharge capacitors. Sure, getting an extra 2 power for an action is pretty awesome, especially if you have nothing to do. You've moved, you sat on your point, you go, cool, I'll just get an extra 2. Or you know that a disruption field is coming up. So getting into a place and doing overcharge capacitors so you can do disruption field later. Yes.
I have a question.
You there, little boy who disappeared his arm in the purple mushroom land.
Yay, purple mushroom land. Overcharge capacitors. Can you just do 2 actions of that your first turn?
Doesn't say you can't.
You wouldn't move.
I mean, you don't necessarily need him to move first turn.
I would want him to.
I mean,
do you need him to though?
Outside of affiliation, or putting Ironman into the affiliation, where he can do his beam from the sky death ray.
Helios.
Anyone can add power to that, as much power as they want, right?
Yep.
He can sit there and just go overcharge. There's 4. Next turn, overcharge. There's another 4. So that's 8 right there that he can just be like, here you go.
Here.
Or alternatively, he uses his beam 4 to ping 2 targets and generate that power because it's a flat builder, and then get to maybe throw shock and damage out.
Yes, if he can do that too, yes.
That's kind of my issue. Is it's very easy to, I feel like, to guarantee. Again, getting 2 people in a beam is not trivial. You have to do a little positioning. You might need to use propulsion thrusters to place yourself. But
with a beam 4, not as hard though.
Beam 4 is actually pretty big.
If Electric Blast was damage, was power per damage. I think overcharge would be a great way to guarantee power for situations where you need it. As it
Yeah.
is, I'd almost always rather electric blast with my action.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
I think that first turn scenario of round one, I really want to use propulsion thrusters to make up some of my short movement. But even then, it's like, would I also just be better just moving again?
He
Because that's what
really
I'm
kind
trying
of
to do.
he wants to break up groups.
Yeah.
He wants to punish people for basically hanging out with their friends. Homing rockets does damage to everything around it. Beams, disruption fields. Sure, I mean if you're within 3 of 2 models, there you go.
It's not
It's
quite how that works, but your point stands.
but so like it seems like he is
He's
also
like,
his
He's very crowd controlly.
actually, let's talk about Red Line. That's actually really
oh,
good.
it does remain to be said.
Oh,
Unbreakable Red Line is a good affiliation ability.
Oh yeah, I was waiting till we were done talking about everything else to go, hey, did you all realize that his entire faction's immune to stagger?
Yeah. Unless you load them with a bunch of really nasty stuff, but
I mean, what's worse than stagger? Straight up lose an action. I can compensate for anything else. I can't compensate for I only have one action.
That's fair.
Angry face.
Just
That's
what?
more your
I mean,
puttering face.
you're
Why
absolutely
are
right.
you angry?
And then they tossed on top of that. They literally went, "Oh, are you?" And it's the start of an allied character's activation, which is even more important because usually it's at the start of like a power turn, you get to remove one. But this is
Yeah.
like, cool, I just stunned this guy, I just did this, and then suddenly this go, all right, my activation starts.
So I think the closest comparison would be Asgard with Thor. I think they can spend a power to remove a condition at the start of their turn. So that means you don't necessarily have to activate the same model removing a condition, which is very helpful with dealing with Incinerate for them.
Yeah.
But
this is still good. And then the additional ability of extra protection on secures is pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, it does not prevent being thrown off of that point.
Just pushed, yes.
True. But
So
I'll
you
take
still
whatever
gotta-
I can get.
Yeah.
It's better than not having that. And if like throws are what you're concerned about, there's a few ways to deal with that as well.
Oh my god, this basically nullifies Sin.
It does.
Good.
So like, okay,
100%.
if you're also running Sin as the leader of Cabal,
Which you're not doing anyway, but
you can
okay.
leave. We'll wait. All right.
Now that all the Sin kills are gone.
So, but like Sin basically says, okay, Sin's affiliation is also kind of crap because you have to roll, and then it goes, cool, push this character off of a secure point, but they literally can just go, cool, I rolled 2, and you don't.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's also all of the attacks that push, all the special
Yeah.
pushes. It's good. It's very good.
Oh yeah, that is literally the best thing about the Winter Guard, which makes the rest of their models worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can you just like, so you like, okay, you take Ursa Minor, you take somebody else, and then you just splash in like Iron Man, or you splash in friggin' Rhino or Juggernaut.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yup.
I think Winter Guard is very much like we have an okay baseline and some okay single purpose models. They are looking for splashes. They're looking for really high impact splashes.
Can you imagine not stunning Juggernaut?
Yeah, I can.
Well,
I've thought of this. I own Juggernaut specifically for this.
It is worth noting at the start of Juggernaut's activation, he would remove the stun. So if your opponent can pile a bunch of damage in before Juggernaut activates, he would still get the benefit of stun. So, I mean, it's good. It's actually not bad. But it's just bear in mind, it's not a like one-step fix-all cure for some of the status conditions.
True.
I really need to look at this faction.
You know what, James? Why don't we just play some MCP and I'll show you them to you? I own them. They're assembled. They're ready to go. They're just gray.
Let's look at some tactic cards.
Oh, you have tactic cards.
Oh yeah, I haven't even looked at these for the faction that I own.
Oh my god. Okay, go ahead.
Why am I the one who thinks of this? Me, only me.
All right, everyone, thanks for
ADHD.
watching.
His first tactic card, Fusion Caster, an unaffiliated card. So this means you can take it with him when you splash Crimson Dynamo if you splash Dynamo. We can talk about that as a end note. During Crimson Dynamo's activation, he may spend 3 power to play this card. He can use the attack listed above once this activation, so he will still need an action to use the attack. It is not a free attack. Fusion Caster, a beam 3 energy, 7 dice, 0 cost past the 3 you paid for the card. When rolling additional dice for crit results, roll 2 additional dice instead of 1 for each crit. After each attack is resolved, this character, Crimson Dynamo, suffers 1 damage for every crit in the attack roll.
Not worth it. Just him with Electric Blast and throw him in like Wakanda or something. Get some extra dice in there.
Yeah, up until he started hurting himself for every crit, which is the only reason you would take this, I'd say this is cool. Unfortunately, his basic attack is only 2 fewer dice, is longer range, and generates him power. Now, if you somehow have a way to make crits more likely,
that's even worse. Because if you think about it, it doesn't say the initial crits. So say you roll you roll 3 crits. Off of those 3 crits, you're rolling now 6 extra dice. You roll 6 dice and you get 3 extra crits.
Now you have
That's
6 crits.
6 damage.
And
I didn't think about that part.
It's not great.
Yeah, but I would I would definitely take it because it says after all of the attacks, so I still get the full beam. If I'm low on health, I'd still take it, throw it.
There's too high of a chance of you killing yourself.
After each attack is resolved, you take damage.
Oh, never mind.
So you can absolutely knock yourself out if you roll hot fire on the first one and you don't get any of the other attacks.
Never mind.
This absolutely strikes me as a card that was released before the general errata and sort of like Ghost version 1.5 of the game. They've written better tactics cards since then.
Peace. Okay, next. That's Chuck It.
He also comes with, now I mix this up. Okay. He also comes in his box with a Winter Rush, a reactive Winter Guard affiliated card. During power phase, any number of allied Winter Guard characters can spend any number of power to play this card. So you do need, first off, Winter Guard, so splash characters can't help. And you need 6 or more power spent to activate it. So this is absolutely not a round 1 thing. This is maybe a round 2 if you can generate power and hoard some.
See, one reason why you'd spend turn 1 going power.
It depends on what the card does.
Shush, James, hold on.
Don't act like you knew this card existed when you were just like, maybe I'll just stand still and make a mountain of power.
I did. I was just playing to the podcast.
If 6 or more power is spent to play this card, every time an allied character is damaged by an enemy effect this round, after the effect is resolved, another allied Winter Guard character can advance short towards the enemy character that caused the effect. So essentially, your entire army gets aggressive, independent of being targeted itself. It's interesting.
Is it worth 6?
I don't know if it's worth 6. It depends, because it is enemy effect, not attack. So things like Green Goblin's tactic card for a trap on an objective would trigger this. Throws, superpowers, counterattacks that happen during your own turn would trigger this.
I would still bring this. I think it plays well to the basically securing up the second part of the affiliation.
Yeah.
So if I get thrown off a point,
exactly,
I have someone comes back onto the point. Yes, still didn't do anything.
If you collide with something.
If you do collide with something.
Yeah. So it forces my opponent to have to answer the question in a very weird way.
Yeah. So picture you're trying to push one man off the point, however you do, and your opponent just keeps rubber banding these two models.
Not push, because you're not getting damage off a push.
If they damage you with another part of the effect, like an attack.
Yes.
Yes.
But
or
the
I
same,
get thrown off the point, I take a damage, I run up.
you can't.
Then you do it again.
Another person has to. That's the problem.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't rubber band the same model.
oh no, that's what I'm saying. But
So
I'm gonna
that's
keep if I'm in the middle of the board defending, and you're gonna do this, throw this one off this point. This one over here goes like this.
and then
You
runs
throw
right
that one off,
into
then this one comes back.
it runs
This is
it
another
runs right
model.
into the range of a person attacking again. I do not like this card just for that reason. If it was the same person that could like bounce back, like they get thrown, they can take a point of damage, they run back. Great. But I am unsure if I would want to spend 6 power for the possibility of having somebody else move into range of somebody, an enemy. It's
I mean,
just it doesn't make sense.
I will point out this is mostly going to trigger during your opponent's turn. So if whatever you're moving hasn't activated yet, they may have just moved into range for a double attack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which could unload a lot more offense without you having to maneuver for it. This is a lot of free movement, even if you're not using that for attack or defense. Just getting onto points. Because you
And-
may advance short towards, there is no directly towards in this game, so you can still
Yeah.
reposition yourself.
See, if it was something like, when targeted, you can spend a power to move somebody towards the attacking person, because that makes Crimson Dynamo perfect. Because then you're like, oh,
Why
this
can't I
person's
still
being
use
targeted. I
Crimson
spent a
Dynamo?
power. I move in. He can now spend 2 powers to do his destruction field. But
I can still do that.
it's after the damage is done, so they're already been taking the damage. If you move him in to do disruption field later, I go cool, and I walk away. It's setting you up for failure.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
I conceptually can't agree with that because that means aggressive is a straight up bad ability.
No, aggressive is a
negative
great ability.
It's but this is literally aggressive for anyone in your army.
But
minus the
aggressive,
person
you-
got hit.
Aggressive, you can move yourself though.
Yeah.
You can only move yourself. Whereas
Yes.
and I
is-
will point out, unlike
I-
leadership abilities, this is not limited once per model per round. You can keep moving the same model all the way to their backfield if you want.
Yeah.
still, I mean, it says also towards the person.
Yeah.
If I could move away, that'd be better. Like,
do you know how easy it is to cheat towards a model? You just
I
have to end
know.
closer.
And we always say like like extra free movements like are the best thing ever, but I don't want to spend 6 for it. Like, what if they don't do damage? What if I roll really, really well and now I'm just stuck?
Or
Cool,
you
you
also
didn't take
stop.
damage.
Yeah, or you just stop your opponent from doing all the extra spendy things they wanted to do that round, bought you another round of stuff.
I don't like it. I'd rather take something else that's going to give me a free move.
I will agree with James as far as this. I'm not sure this is worth 6. Because I think this is a good card. I don't know if it's as good as Avengers Assemble or, to me, my X-Men, which is a one-time move that you can trigger whatever you want for your entire force. If they're
Of course not.
Is
These
Follow
are the
Me
knockoff
still
Avengers. They're just not going to be as good.
And I feel like that's kind of a problem for Winter Guard as a whole. Is I want this to be better than I think it is, because it's so flavorful. But it's like at some point, if you want to build knockoffs of other heroes as a Soviet Russia joke, make them good. Like, don't just make them slightly worse than existing models.
I would still take
that's
this
Russia.
without a question. This would be in my list. It's not going to be that hard to generate that much power. Especially if with a beam 4, there's a good chance most shots I can get 3 models.
Yeah.
It's also just
or if I can only
Guard.
get 2. Well, even if I can get 2, shoot it twice, that's a guaranteed 4. I could drop 4 off of him super easy.
Yeah, but it's also just Winter Guard, so Juggernaut couldn't move towards him.
No.
Like, Rhino couldn't. Anything. Hell, throw Ghost Rider in there. Nothing's going to happen for that card, other than you're going to have to take all of Winter Guard Do you want to take all of Winter Guard?
Or
Well,
I
I
take
wanna
any of the
take
models that have the I can be whatever affiliation I want.
Only at the
Can-
start,
Still doesn't work. Still doesn't work. Rogue agent will not trigger for this.
Oh,
because
damn. I thought it
they
did.
revert. It only counts as towards list building. So
Well,
yeah,
then-
If there was
Oh, I
also
thought- isn't it-
sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
isn't it the opposite? It
No.
doesn't count towards the list building?
nope. They count as affiliation for the purposes of building your list.
Well, fine.
And then after
misunderstood.
you go into the game, they're just a rogue agent. They don't count
Well,
towards that
fine.
list anymore.
Count me Russian Avengers and misunderstood the rules and wanted to make them whatever I wanted.
Problem is, we can say Winter Soldier, but the Winter Soldier is actually part of Winter Guard.
No, he's not. Unless that changed.
I actually believe, Jake, look
He's
it up.
not.
I
He's not. Jake there. He's not frozen anymore. He's not.
He is not. He's only Shield. This is only actual affiliate.
wait. Winter
He is
Soldier?
not
Is
part-
he Hydra?
he is-
No, just Shield.
No, he is not part of the affiliation.
No. You're a
Yeah, I'm not-
liar.
Like I used Winter Guard or Winter Soldier for a reason. I used him because you know how great it would be to reposition him wherever I need to get his range whatever to go murder whatever.
Liar.
I am not.
Atomic Mass Games. Tell me they're wrong.
James, I would own Winter Soldier if this was
Into
the
a
case.
complete halt. Well,
I'll
James,
edit. I will edit this part.
I
well,
mean,
Hold on, come
probably
here.
should.
Come here.
'cause Jake keeps freezing.
Let's see.
am I freezing or just holding my position while I wait for you to talk?
Definitely not that because you all of a sudden catch up in such a off position. Okay, now I know you're doing it.
Son of a.
Why is the internet bad?
You know what? Jake, you're wrong. He's not part of Winter Guard. All right. Final thoughts.
I'm super happy to play this. I think it's gonna be entertaining. It's a challenge, but at the same rate, like I do feel once you put all of them together, they do make a cohesive enough team to actually be decent.
Now, what are your final thoughts on Crimson Dynamo?
Well, that is a final thought on Crimson Dynamo for his leadership. I'm immune to stagger. I could take off a lot of other things that would kind of hurt the team. Being able to stand on points and not have to worry about getting pushed off as much. Even taking that 50% is pretty good. Of not getting pushed off. Like I'm excited to finally put them on the table now that they're bottles.
I will also say, real quick, we didn't talk about it, but throwing shock on a beam and zapping your opponent with shock, which cuts a die out of their attacks, is actually really good defensive tech for an affiliation that has somewhat squishier models. And is a pretty good way for Crimson Dynamo himself to kind of weather a lot of damage.
Throw him into defenders and make his beam attack a mystic attack, and give it hex.
That's pretty fun. Crimson Dynamo, I think, is a pretty good 4-threat model. I think in affiliation, he's going to be a mainstay of your team, going to do a lot of work.
I mean, he's got to be. He's got leadership.
He has to be. Out of affiliation, I would consider splashing him if I remember he exists. Partially just because there is so much competition for 4-threat.
Yeah.
I mean, without his leadership, I wouldn't take. I don't know if I'd splash him very much.
I might. So, and here's the reason why I might. If there is an affiliation that I'm becoming very power starved, I might throw him in there to be able to, like, if I want to throw splash him into Wakanda or something.
My dude, take Wong.
Yeah.
True.
If that's all you want is the one action to generate 2 power, take Wong. He's 2-threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I could I splash him with other things and he be okay? Like beam 4 or 5 dice is good. It's just good.
Put him in convocation. Give Baron Mordo, just giving him more dice on his beam.
That's, again, not how that works.
Yeah, you can boost attacks.
No. You re-roll 2 of an attacker's dice.
Oh, yeah.
It's a defensive.
his attacks are good, decent attacks. They're cheap, they're easy, they're effective. But outside of that, I can get that with 3 threat.
But Disruption Field, I mean, I
Disruption Field's good
might
defense
take
attack.
him in for the Disruption Field.
Now,
Okay.
if anything, I would spend the extra point and splash Cable if I'm looking for shit like that.
Yeah, but Cable.
Yeah, Cable.
Cable's range 5 energy with Incinerate on a wild and can more easily put out the defensive tech.
True, but I kind of like
5.
Shock for more defensive tech.
And Homing Rockets.
Homing Rockets.
Anyway, great in his own faction. I'm okay in some other factions, but I don't know. Unless we look at everything else, I'm not sure how it's going to fit into Winter Guard.
Well, you know what, James? We can look at it next week.
We can look at it next week. So thanks you guys for watching. And next week, let's talk about a bear.
Bear.
Yeah.
Bear.
Ursa.
Bye, everyone.
Major.
Bye.
Bye. Game off.